Omaha, Council Bluffs.
You wearing ratty jackets from Stephen Barry's. Praying one day Big Red will win the NIT.
Ham is the water of meats.
Ham the water of meats.
Ham is the water of meats.
Someone needs a bacon.
Ham is the water of meats.
I think we're coming up on like the
Ham is the water of meats.
5-year anniversary of this track dropping.
4.
It was for your 40th birthday, so actually it's probably like the 15th anniversary of this dropping.
4. 2017.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I mean, you look like you're 55 or closing in on 55.
Wow.
Did you play softball like you were closing in on 55? I saw that you had the big charity softball event there, the media softball event in Lincoln. I was very ashamed to hear that my alma mater lost.
Yeah, it was bad. We teamed up with Channel 8, and we took on the other radio guys along with 10-11. I pitched, and I gave up a grand slam to Bill Shamrett in the first inning. And that was kind of set the tone for how the day was going to be.
Good grief. You give up a grand slam to a TV anchor.
Yeah. Bill Shamrott. He
not
turned it.
Guy, not Ken Shimmick, but to a TV anchor man.
Yeah, Shimmick was there. Shimmick got a hit off of me. I fouled out my first time up. I did get a base hit. Kevin Suits couldn't field the ball in left field. I rocketed one out to Suits. He couldn't handle it. So I got on first. No, it was. I think it was a true base hit. I don't know what the official scorer said, but yeah, we lost by about 20 runs or so.
20?
Yeah, it was really bad. It was really bad.
What happened? I mean, back in the day when we used to have the Broadcast House softball team, we had some good players.
Yeah,
Did
we don't
lose
anymore.
all our good players, or was it the TV people that weren't holding up their end?
It was a combo. We have one. Well, boy, I hope none of them are listening. Let's see. I'm way past my prime in softball. I'm not particularly good. I can pitch all right, but obviously I'm giving up meatballs. We had Nelson from Froggy 98. Okay, formerly of Sweet 98. And then we had his one of his sidekicks. Now Gary wasn't there, of course. He's the elite athlete, and he wasn't there from Froggy 98. So they had Johanna. So they're going. Then the channel. Rod Fowler might have been our second best player on the team. Rod Fowler might have been our second or third best player.
He's
on
pushing
the team.
70. So
yeah, Caleb, my cohort at Cal, he was the best player by far, probably on our team. So we were struggling after that.
Well, I guess similar to my college alma mater's football team, my radio alma mater softball team sucks too. So,
did you see my pump up TikTok though?
Yes, I did see the pump up TikTok, and it
was amazing. You don't have to say it. I know, but thanks.
I'm just going to say it was there. I'm glad to see that you've taken your trash talk to a modern medium now, so that's good.
My son was out there at the batting. I took him to the batting cage with me to get some pointers because he swung a lot more bats than I have recently, although they haven't been slow pitch softball. And he was like, "Can I video this?" He's like, "I want to make a montage." I was like, "Absolutely."
A montage. Then why didn't you use good montage music?
He wanted to pick the music. I think that song he used was on the soundtrack of Space Jam 2, and so he thought it was a good fit there.
Yeah, Space Jam 2, which I'm sure many people have watched in our audience. Has anyone watched Space Jam 2?
It was good. It was Kirk Franklin. It was good. He was doing the pop-up thing.
All right. Cool.
So anyway, it's my first ever TikTok that I've appeared in. And apparently it's got almost
congratulations. And because you're in that TikTok, now all of your information is being stolen by the Chinese.
I used to worry about that, but that's happening with everything. So I'm at a point where I will take bare minimum precautions not to have my information or identity or credit card stolen, but beyond bare minimum effort, I'm screwed no matter what. So I'm going to take all the conveniences. I am going to take all the conveniences that come to me in exchange for my information. Okay. So, so Chipotle app, you want my address and my credit card? That's fine. But you better have my burrito ready when I drive through the lane there. I mean, it's just what I am going to take I'm going to take above 100% advantage of all of the things I'm benefiting from by giving them all my information. I'm going to stick them. There's going to be a real quid pro quo here, John.
Yeah. Well, you're probably right. I mean, yesterday, because my brother and my mom have birthdays, and we were sending out, cards, and I couldn't remember the exact house number address for my brother's house, which is my grandparents' old house. I remembered the street. I wasn't 100% sure on the street number, so I did a quick look up on my phone, and sure enough, when I pulled it up on the phone, it had not only my brother's name on there, but it had my name on there.
Oh, yeah.
My parents' name, my sister's name, like all the people he's related to. I think my wife's name was on there. It was like, how do you know this stuff?
Right. And that add into it, you're a public figure, so you got a million extra pages connecting to you. You use your real name, not a made-up fake name like I do, so that's even a bigger problem for you. You're screwed, okay?
Fair.
You're screwed. There's no reason. Just hold your credit card up to the camera right now and let everyone jot it down. It doesn't matter.
All right, let me do that here, and I'll just do it right now. Oh, never mind. So earlier on, before you came on, I was talking about where Nebraska's place might be if we get to this eventual, where I think eventually this is all leading, this college realignment. It's leading to a consolidation of power. It's leading to something to the akin of a super league. And if, depending on how narrow that focus is, where Nebraska's place might be in all of this. And I quoted some television ratings numbers from the last 3 seasons. And essentially, Nebraska's average TV viewership is double, if not a little more than double, what the rest of the Big 8 or Big 12 conference, I guess we should call them the Big 8 now because there's literally 8 of them left. And Iowa's is pretty comparable as well. Do you feel comfortable if this really narrows down? And let's say the SEC goes for the gusto and they pull in the Clemsons and the Florida States and the Ohio States and the Michigans, blah, blah, blah. Are you comfortable of where Nebraska's place might be in a world like that, where you're narrowing it down, not just to Power 5 schools, but maybe to the cream of the Power 5 crop?
Yeah, I think I am. And I understand what the thinking is to be concerned about it. It's just a lack of recent success that you've got other schools that could say, hey, you look at a 10-year resume and compare us with Nebraska, whether you're someone like Iowa State or Kansas State or any of those, and they're going to compare favorably to Nebraska. But I do think the decision to go to the Big Ten it looks so much better today than it did 6 months ago, which I didn't necessarily oppose it then, but I think that the existing, and I know the scenario you're talking about probably gets rid of these conferences, but I think I think a lot of the Big Ten schools will be treated kind of as a group for purposes like that, and I think that helps you. And then the other thing is, it's if this is truly about dollars, there's still a lot to be said about the earning power that comes along with Nebraska as well. And so when they make these decisions, just look at Texas, John. I mean, Texas is got this invite to the SEC, and I don't know when Texas is going to next contend for an SEC title. It doesn't seem like it's going to be pretty soon at this point. But they're in the
chance win in the SEC as they do win in the Southwest Conference.
Exactly, and so I mean, to some degree, the interest in Texas by the SEC, which is the first version of this kind of a super conference thing, I think bodes well. Nebraska's not exactly the same as Texas, but I don't know. I think there's some level of comparison there between the two programs.
Right, in terms of like on-field relevance, but obviously we know the reason why Texas is coveted because there's tens of millions of people down there. It's a huge name. They've got money up the wazoo, and yeah, they've got the cachet of being Texas.
Right.
And I haven't used this analogy yet, but in a way, and I know this is going to come across as a backhanded compliment of sorts, but I see Nebraska because they can still pull in viewers. They pull in on between 2 and 2.5 million viewers on average over the last 3 years per game, which is more than double what the rest of the Big 12 schools do, and certainly the rest of the Group of 5. In a way, it's kind of like Nebraska is, in I like to use a lot of pro wrestling analogies, so bear with me a minute. But when you're trying to build up your stars, you bring in either the aging veterans who used to have a name or just guys that had a name, and you use them as enhancement talent to build up the big guys at the top. And you're still, whether it's a super league of 24 teams or 32 teams or whatever the magic number is, you're still going to, not everybody is going to be Alabama. You just can't. There's only a handful of teams that can there's really only one team that can say they're Alabama. And there's, a group of teams that are right below that, but you're going to need some enhancement talent. And Nebraska still has a name, still has cachet. I saw something, and it was actually it was some kind of an impressions. Trying to think of the word.
Yes, I saw it. That chart. Yeah, I saw the same thing.
Okay, it's
Nebraska
called the
was number
Value
one.
of Brand Equity. It was put out last year at this time by Navigate, and it was a brand value index, and it's based on basically three variables: revenue per fan, the size of your fan base, and the percentage of your state population who claims to be a fan. And Nebraska was number one on the list. They were ahead of Alabama. They were number one on the list. And so there is still that brand there. They're still recognizable. And so while, yes, they're not the Nebraska of 1995, they still carry enough of a name and a brand value that people will watch just because it's, I see on the marquee it reads Ohio State versus Nebraska. Oh, that's an interesting game. It certainly is more attractive than saying, pardon me, Greg and Lincoln, Ohio State versus Purdue.
Well, so let me do a little exercise with you that I think pertains to the question that you're asking. I pulled up you can pull up any ranking you want. I just picked College Football News, CFN.com, because I like that website. And they've got their preseason rankings. And so this gives us kind of an idea where at this snapshot in time, Nebraska is viewed. Okay. So they're 58th right now. But that's kind of where they are in a lot of these rankings. Let's count up from there with their peers. Okay. So I'm going to go 57, 56, and we're going to see if these teams seem like considerably better, worse, or about the same fits for a super conference.
Okay.
You know what I mean? You're just going to kind of see where the territory is. All right. So Nebraska's 58. Number 57, Oregon State.
No.
Oh God. No. By the way, guys, Nebraska is one behind Oregon State.
There's irony in there.
I just realized this. By the way, irony in there. Player you need to know for Oregon State on this list, by the way, Avery Roberts.
Oh, I wonder where he came from.
God, I just saw that right now. Okay. Oregon State, no. We can agree, definitely no. Yep. Washington State, definitely no.
Nope.
Interesting now.
Even if Nebraska wanted to schedule them in a game that apparently never got scheduled. Yes.
Right.
You're right.
Okay. 55, Florida State, maybe. Similar situation there. That's a real similar situation, isn't it?
It is. And, it's funny you mentioned Florida State because Florida State, has a lot of the same cachet as Nebraska in terms of its historic success. But here's one thing that I'm not trying to make an argument, Florida State fans, why you should be left out. But if we're really going to narrow this bad boy down, do you need Florida State if you have Florida?
Yeah.
Florida's in, right?
Yeah.
I mean, do you want to concentrate too much in a similar market space, if you will? I still think, yes, Florida State, like Nebraska, would be in because, again, they could be enhancement talent that can build up the stars at the top of the roster. But there's an argument that could be made that, Florida State is on, if Nebraska is even on the slightest of shaky ground, the Florida State would be there too.
That's a good compare. It's actually a good compare. Now, Florida State did go to, they had more recent success in the Jameis Winston years than did Nebraska, but they've had a pretty big fall too. A couple of them actually. So just going down a few more. Michigan State is 54. Michigan State 54. They made the college football playoff a few years back.
Because Andy Staples, kind of the thing that started me in this conversation, he put out a list of 24 schools. He had Michigan State on the list. But I would look at Michigan State very similar to Florida State. Actually, similar from the standpoint of if you already have Michigan, do you need Michigan State? And Michigan State doesn't have the historic cachet of Florida State.
And Michigan State, not all that different from Nebraska over the last 5 years either. In terms of success.
True.
Now, again, go back 6 years and they were in the college football playoff, which is still kind of odd to me. But, Next is Purdue, probably.
Not if we're talking like we'll just put a round number on it, 30.
Yeah,
we're talking.
And then
really, sorry, Purdue, you're not in.
Wake Forest, Virginia, no, right?
No.
Baylor, maybe.
See, but Baylor's right now in that group of teams that Oklahoma and Texas just left behind. So I would say no on Baylor.
Yeah, and you got all that, and the same argument that you made for Florida State, right? In terms of the state that they're in.
You're going to have Texas and Texas A&M. That's a big enough state where you're like, okay, you're going to have those two schools. And you could probably say the same for Florida. Florida's a huge state, but Florida could end up with 3 teams because you throw Miami in there as well. But Texas and Texas A&M will be.
All right, not to take up forever this segment, but just let's go no down here for a little bit. Louisville?
Nope.
No. West Virginia?
Nope.
South Carolina?
No.
Colorado? No.
Again, the only thing that would help Colorado is it is something in the Mountain Time Zone. But I'm here kind of assuming that whomever masterminds this Super League is going to want geographic balance. My guess is geographic balance is down far on the list of priorities as far as, hey, who do we want to invite and who do we not?
Central Florida? No. Virginia Tech? Maybe.
Virginia Tech, I think, made Staples' list. Let me double check. I'm going to scroll up here. I think Virginia Tech made the list. They did.
Okay.
Which was interesting to me. I'd love to hear more of an argument as to why Virginia Tech.
Boston College?
No.
Missouri?
Missouri didn't make Staples' list.
Then we get Arkansas?
No.
Kansas State?
No.
Minnesota?
These are all teams, by the way, that were rated ahead of Nebraska on this.
Yes, by the way, these are just for this season, for on the field this season, to just get a snapshot of where the program is today. It's a rough way to do it, but Minnesota, Mississippi State, Tennessee. So obviously Tennessee would be in. Tennessee. Cal, Stanford, NC State, Kentucky, Northwestern, Indiana, Pitt. But that gets you to the top 30.
There's a lot of teams on there that'd be no.
Right? Exactly. And then we get into Ole Miss, probably. I don't know. Texas Tech, maybe. TCU.
Ole Miss did not make Andy Staples' list. TCU did not make it.
Miami is 26.
Miami did.
Okay. And then we're into the top 25. I assume all these would be, you would think all of these would probably be yeses from here on out. Hold on. I got to click the right link here. So 11 to 25. Well, this is the top 10. These are probably all Wisconsin, Florida, Oregon, LSU, Ohio State, A&M, Georgia, Clemson, Oklahoma, Alabama. So those would all obviously be in.
Those would all be in.
But I can't get the page that I'm looking for with 11 through 25.
The point of the matter is that Nebraska's kind of down on that list, but they still bring eyeballs. They still bring something. And let's face it, and I've said this many times, the thing that continues to keep Nebraska relevant is you, the people. You do it.
Right.
And I know that, we've talked a lot about the sellout streak and all that other stuff. And certainly nationally, there would be a, oh my kind of response the day that thing comes to an end. But there's a reason why when things happen at Nebraska, for example, when Trev Alberts got hired, it was on ESPN's crawl all day long.
Mm-hmm.
With another school, with a lot of the schools that you mentioned on that list ahead of Nebraska, I don't know if that's the case.
Okay, by the way, I'm just going through that other page. I finally got it. Cincinnati.
No.
Michigan.
Yes.
UCLA.
No.
Oklahoma State.
No.
Iowa.
Yes.
Utah.
No.
Arizona State.
No.
Texas, Notre Dame, USC, Auburn, Penn State, Washington, North Carolina, Iowa State.
North Carolina also did not make that.
Yeah. So, I mean, I that was a really long way of making the point that, yes, Nebraska, from a football perspective, right now is not even looked at in the top 50 of most rankings at this point. But when you're looking at it the way that we're talking about, you're comparing it. I mean, Wake Forest is ranked better than Nebraska. There obviously wouldn't be a step ahead of Nebraska. I mean, there were gobs of schools that I mentioned that just that make much less sense for Nebraska. So it doesn't necessarily mean that Nebraska, if it's 40 schools, right, that that by virtue of being 60th, approximately 60th ranked right now, that Nebraska's out of the running. That's just the point that I was making there.
We're going to have Dirk on later on in the program. I assume you saw his plan. Do you like that idea? His college football cup?
I mean, yeah, I like it because
we know that the practicality of it happening is slim and none, but just the idea on paper.
Part of the reason I just like any plan, John, is because it feels like all of these moves are just going to force a plan to be reality and not made with a plan in mind. Essentially, that's for the good of college football. And so it's just going to be where these schools are, who's at the right place in the right time for how all this develops. And he is basically putting together a holistic plan for all of the country and all of these schools and conferences. And I just don't know how that happens practically. I mean, I have no idea how that actually happens.
Well, yeah, and you know, we keep talking about having a czar, having a commissioner for college football. Someone would have to take control, and that's where all of this is heading. This conference realignment is not about just having the best teams with you, but it's about figuring out what the power structure of the sport is moving forward. The NCAA is going to have a constitutional convention. They're probably going to cede a lot of power back to the schools, aka the conferences, and that's what I think the SEC is doing here. They're getting the strongest possible grouping of schools together so that when that power does come back and trickles down to them, they can be the ones that say, we're going to set these particular rules, whether it's on scholarship limits or, you know, what's allowed in recruiting or what's allowed in terms of pay for play, all of that stuff. We're going to make the rules, and we're going to make the rest of you follow us. And if you don't follow us, that's fine. Everyone's going to be watching our product because they're already watching our product. And, oh, by the way, we just made our product stronger. So you either have to follow us or die.
Right. And decisions will be made in the best interests of the schools and the conferences, not the best interests of the sports. That's not going to be up there in the ranking of the decisions that have been made and will continue to be made. But I think, you know, talking more generally about what Dirk suggested is, as long as what happens still allows for the most important thing for me, more than anything, I think, is that long-standing matchups continue to happen regularly, that you don't ditch the ones that are still happening, that for instance, Michigan and Ohio State keep playing, that Nebraska and Iowa keep playing, that, you know, name your long time
Alabama,
that those games still happen. And those are going to be largely based around conferences, but not always. And so you still have those most important matchups. And then still that it's fairly regional in terms of the way the games are played and that you're matching up frequently with the teams in your area as well. If you can keep that going, I'm not tied, as you know, I'm not tied to conferences, to the idea of a conference anymore. The idea of a conference is nothing like even, John, the 1984 Big Eight that I remember, which was entirely different. The purpose of a conference now is basically to be a collective. The biggest purpose of it, at least, is to be a collective bargaining entity for the purposes of TV rights.
Right.
Where until you had that big CFA case with Oklahoma, that wasn't even a thing. Conferences predated that. They weren't negotiating their own TV rights then. That's just not how it worked. The conference has that duty right now, and it's completely changed what the conference is. So I don't have any real affinity, frankly. I hate conference championships for the most part in football. I don't really love that. It's not the conference I care about. It's the individual matchups that I care about. And as long as those are preserved, then something like Dirk's idea, something that does that and preserves the kind of the process of having exciting games that you care about, and a championship format that makes some sense. I mean, I'm not going to get too worked up about it. We're in a crappy place as it is right now. This is not, let's not act like 2021 or even 2019 conferences are some sort of, something that we're going to reminisce about how wonderful they were. It's just not that way for me.
You got time to join me for one more segment?
Sure. Yeah.
All right. I want to talk about what Trev Albert said a couple weeks ago regarding the sellout streak, and also, if we have time, to find out if you have plans for the first game yet. Have you already started making plans for the first game, which is 3 weeks from this Saturday?
That's incredible. We're almost there. We've almost made it. I watched a college football pump-up video on YouTube this afternoon before I came on with you.
Whose pump-up video?
I don't know, some guy who steals clips and puts it to some rap music, but I had some goosebumps. I was ready to run through a wall. It's college football YouTube's pump-up video season.
We'll keep it going. We'll leave the video up as well, so stay right there. You can watch Jack watches pump-up videos during the break. The Summer Sizzler, it may be college football in 3 weeks, but the Summer Sizzler is still happening on 1620 The Zone. Your chance to win $1,500 in summer spending cash. Enter online right now at 1620thezone.com. Back with more. Jack Mitchell will join us here on 1620 The Zone.
John Bishop, emotional, cranky, and experienced. In other words, he's as old as dirt. Josh Peterson, youthful, argumentative, and doesn't care if his takes are bad.
I never say anything stupid. I say smart things like...
Together with Michael and Damon in the morning and Gary Sharp middays, they make up the most formidable team in Omaha radio. Unsportsmanlike conduct. Afternoons at 2. We are live. We are Omaha. We are 6A to 6P. We are 1620 The Zone. Your Omaha area forecast from the Godfather's Pizza Weather Center and KETV News Watch 7 on 1620 The Zone.
Patchy smoke this morning and haze this afternoon with mostly sunny skies for eastern Nebraska and western Iowa. High today near 84 degrees in Omaha with light and variable winds. Staying mostly clear and hazy tonight. I'm meteorologist Caitlin Harvey with KTV News Watch 7.
Inside the train testing facility, our heating and cooling products are put through 16 weeks of extreme temperature fluctuations to simulate 5 years of wear and tear. 150 degrees one day, sub-zero temperatures the next. We test so it runs.
Summer heat has set in, and your air conditioning unit is working hard. If you need help with your HVAC system, call a qualified independent Trane dealer. When it's time for a new unit, your Trane heating and air conditioning system is the way to go.
It's hard to stop a trend.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Go where the summer leads you during the Season of Discovery sales event at Woodhouse Mazda with a full lineup of
Test 1, 2, 3, 4. Test 1, 2, 3, 4.
From the 2021 Mazda CX-30 to the family-friendly Mazda CX-9, our sales staff is here to help find the perfect model for you. With a suite of features, you can expect more with Mazda at a price that is good for you. Test drive one today. One of our 2 convenient Woodhouse Mazda locations in Bellevue or Omaha. Or shop online today.
It's been a great summer, and we transition into the new school year. There's football, there's a little bit of hunting, the cooler weather. You know what you could use? Crisp, clear vision. And we can help you do that. My friends at Kugler Vision voted Best of Omaha, #1 LASIK provider in Omaha Magazine. And people hear me all the time talk about Kugler Vision, and they ask the same question. Do you think I qualify for LASIK? I can tell you can answer that question. The folks over at Kugler Vision can do that. Go to kuglervision.com, set up a consultation today, and find out if you are ready for some LASIK at kuglervision.com.
This is an audio demo of the new Sonic app. Just look at that menu. Here are some of the Sonic classics clearly. I'll customize my tots by adding those. Gotta get the ocean water. What is that color? An ocean blue? See that? Drinks and slushes are always half price in the app. And this is how you do the contactless payment. Will you look at that? I guess you can't, but you can when you order in the Sonic app.
Limited time offer. Exclusions apply. See app for details. Mobile ordering available at select locations.
It's not like you need an excuse to ride, but when it's a great day to ride with a great cause, there's no excuse not to ride. Saturday, August 21st, don't miss the annual Doghouse Motorcycle Rally Poker Run, with 100% of the proceeds going to the Fred and Pamela Buffett Cancer Center. The rally starts with sign-up from 11 to noon at the Doghouse Saloon in downtown Waterloo and ends up right back at the Doghouse Saloon with raffles, prizes, plenty of beer, music by Chad Lee, and Dog's famous cooking. All bikes and cars are welcome to come.
With the Capital One Saver Card, you earn unlimited 4% cash back on dining out or in, 4% back on entertainment, or on popular streaming. And now, 3% back at grocery stores so you can make the cake that makes her day.
Happy birthday to you.
So earn unlimited cash back for going out or staying in with the Capital One Saver Card. Capital One, what's in your wallet?
Terms apply. See CapitalOne.com for details. Players vie for their PGA Tour card at this year's Pinnacle Bank Championship, presented by Aetna and part of the Korn Ferry Pro Golf Tour. 25 will advance. Catch it all August 9th through the 15th at the club at Indian Creek. Buy tickets at thepinnaclebankchampionship.com.
The first bet on Season Sportsbook app is up to $5,000 risk-free, people. When I told my team about the idea, they said I was being too wonderful and magnificent. But I don't care how awesome this makes me. I'm doing this for the people. So just download the app, and that first bet is up to $5,000 risk-free. Caesar made an app for the people.
Must be 21. Offer valid in Iowa only and for new players. Paid in bet credits. Terms and conditions apply. See Caesars.com/promos. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-BETS-OFF.
This is unsportsmanlike conduct.
We'll go right.
The 1620. The Zone.
Back with more. Jack Mitchell joining us live here on the video stream on Program TV. If you want to watch along, we were talking about Nebraska and its place in the college football world. Of course, one of the things I complimented everyone on was the one thing that keeps Nebraska relevant are you, the fans, the people, because they still move the needle in a lot of places when Nebraska does something big, either good or bad, across the college football landscape. Obviously, one of the things that has helped Nebraska's reputation in that front over the years has been that sellout streak. And I know we spent a lot of oxygen talking about it earlier, and then Bill Moose left, Trev Alberts came in. It's kind of fallen by the wayside, that conversation. But we're 3 weeks away from the season starting. We're 4 weeks away from the first home game week. And I did not get a chance to react to Trev Alberts' comment on the sellout streak. This was when, I believe this was from when he was in Indianapolis at Big Ten Media Days. He said, when asked about the sellout streak, he said, it's important because it's reflective of our fans. But I will tell you, too, that I am not interested in perception. I'm interested in reality. Part of good organizations is having the courage to examine the blatant truths of your current reality. That's a quote from an old admiral. But the reality is, part of growth, we need to be honest with ourselves, warts and all. And at the end of the day, if the reality doesn't match the perception, I'm not a guy who's going to keep perception going. I thought that was as refreshing a comment on this whole situation as I have ever heard, because it's long been rumored and speculated, that this thing's been propped up artificially, that it's not really a true sellout streak. But, when you're having to do, 3-game specials and you're selling online tickets right now and you can see, everything that's available, it's clear that this thing is on the ropes for the moment. But my question to you, and really to everybody, is this: will acknowledging the end of this thing, this streak, be a freeing moment for this program, a final acknowledgement that we can say, you know what, that was past, that was great, it was good when it happened, but now the shackles are free and we no longer have to pretend something that isn't?
I don't know. I mean, I think it'll probably, the true freeing moment is going to be when it actually ends, not Albert's just saying that, despite the fact I was also refreshed by what he had to say there as well. But the truth of the matter is, John, there's so many people who didn't hear or don't care, or the value of words like that just pale in comparison to the value you and I know hearing from people fascinated, obsessed almost with the sellout streak. And you're still those people are still absolutely going to be there. It's a huge section of the fan base, and understandably, it's still something that there's a ton of pride within this fan base on. So no, I don't think his words alone do that. But I think even more importantly than that, though, it signifies that I think the athletic department has its head in the right place. It's so funny when Alberts got hired, the national media, but there were a lot of people who had the hardy har. Nebraska can only hire its former players from the 90s. Oh, Nebraska can't stop living in the 90s. Alberts has been the most outspoken about sort of just disconnecting all of these memories, not getting rid of the nostalgia, but not having the focus on the success when there isn't success right now. It's just he's bringing a mentality in that is pretty antithetical to what the perception is of what Nebraska's doing by hiring a former player.
No, yeah, and so too often we can get caught up in those types of visuals, right? Where it's the Nebraska thing to do is to always hire the former player. But if you really dive down deep and you listen to what he's saying and you watch his actions and you look back at his history at Omaha, at UNO, you realize that, this isn't just some, Johnny come lately who, is here only because he played here. I mean, there's some substance to what he does, and I think there's some purpose to how he plans to manage this thing.
Well, and compared to Bill Moose, I mean, Moose knew how to give out the red meat about the things Nebraska fans love to have pride in. I mean, Moose is more of that mentality than Alberts is, and Alberts is the former 90s player, to be honest.
Right. Yeah, in terms of keeping up appearances, but Trev's not really interested in keeping up appearances. Sometimes, like he said, warts and all, these things get exposed, and at least to me, I don't know, there's something about whenever we put an expiration date on this streak, I think that makes it gives it that sense of permanence. And I realize what I'm saying here is kind of opposite of what permanent is, because permanent would be it just goes on forever. But there's a sense of, man, look at this. Because think about it. The sellout streak started in 1962. It has gone through Kennedy, Johnson, Nixon, Ford, Carter, Reagan, Bush 1, Clinton, Bush 2, Obama, Trump. This is the 12th president that this streak is. Back in 1962, there wasn't two platoon football. The sport was very different than what it is today.
Yeah.
And for it to have lasted that long, if this is indeed to be the end, I don't know. There you can still prop that up as, hey, look at what we did. And when I say we, I truly mean we. There are people that get, butthurt when they, hear fans talk about we and they're referring to their favorite team. No, this streak literally is we.
Yeah.
It's the people's streak. It's the people's record.
Right.
And to me, there'd be something, if we see, sellout streak 1962 to 2021, even though it would have ended, you look at those numbers 5, 10, 15, 20, 50 years from now, that's going to be really, really, really impressive.
Yeah. Unless, I don't know who's number 2 on the list, unless they pass Nebraska by then. Then it'll be really depressing.
Well, Notre Dame was number 2 on the list, and theirs ended either last year or 2 years ago.
Yeah. If Nebraska continues to be disappointing, the sellout streak feels I know you talked about this. I don't know, John, I've heard you talk about it a few times, that you just wonder if that last little bit of pressure, if it would be better for the program if it weren't there. I think I've heard you bring that up in the past. But to be honest, here's the other thing about it though, John. I was going through the games with Josh last time I was here, I think a week ago, and we were running down, you win that Illinois game, right? That game is so big because then you're looking at 2 games you should win at home going into Oklahoma. Then even if you lose to Oklahoma, you've got more winnable games to the point you've got Northwestern coming in for a night game, probably with Nebraska on the verge of being ranked if you take care of all of your business after that Illinois game. And I'm going to tell you what, it's going to be like, how Nebraska fans jump on winners in any sport. You remember being in Nebraska women in Bob Devaney Sports Center. I was at that game in the blizzard against Kansas State for the number 3 ranked Nebraska women's basketball. Put down on absolute steroids if Nebraska football would finally get some breaks and get hot and play well. And it would take all of a month, John. It would take all of a month to completely change it. That's all it takes. And we're not talking about it anymore for this year, at least.
No.
And hopefully you bought yourself an extended period of time. So that's the other part about it. If it goes on naturally, great. But if you have to, it feels like another opportunity for Nebraska just to get dunked on and being made a laughing stock because of their adherence to these things of the past that just aren't there anymore, no matter how bad we want them to be there.
Oh, by the way, I just went to the ticket order. You can still buy tickets for individual games, including Fordham. There's quite a few available.
And
I can, if you want, I can buy seats 1 through 8 up in row 92 of section 20.
And I absolutely hate to bring this up, and I absolutely hope it's not a factor, but don't look now at what's happening with COVID and how that impacts decisions that people made about going out, assuming everything stays. There aren't any restrictions in terms of that, but that probably plays in a little bit again. If it's crazy, they're going to fill that place up for Garth Brooks in 2 weeks, I believe.
Yeah, a week from Saturday.
2 weeks from Saturday. I'm going. That'll be interesting.
Yeah, it will. So, do you have plans for the first game? Have you decided you can't put it on the garage unless you put up a sun shield?
It's another stupid 11 a.m. kick, which I am just
noon.
Is it noon? Sorry, 11 a.m. Mountain Time. That's slightly better. No, I don't. I actually don't know what my plan is here for this. I can put, if I want to do it outside. We did this for some of the games last year. When you were only watching games with people outside. We actually did it inside the garage, so I could perhaps do that, but. It could very easily be hot and uncomfortable. Maybe I'd just rather be in the comfortable basement. And then we got games on the rest of the day. I think we got like Hawaii and UCLA and a big UConn Fresno matchup.
Ooh, UConn.
Don't forget UTEP at New Mexico State. That's a big one. Week 0 is not only one game, John. People are forgetting that.
I know. There's a handful. All right. Well, it's good to talk to you again, and we'll catch up with you next week.
Sounds good. Appreciate it, and have a good show.
All right. There he is, Jack Mitchell, ladies and gentlemen, from our sister station, KLIN. Coming up, Steve Sipple's going to join us in about 15 minutes. I want to remind you that now is a great time to get your Fernando's fix with 2 locations here in Omaha. Fernando's with a great Sonoran-style Mexican cooking that has made them famous for over 30 years. And, oh, by the way, did you know that Fernando's caters? And while you're thinking now, do I want Mexican food at my wedding or my family? No, they cater everything. They'll do prime rib buffets. They'll do chicken. They'll do pasta stations. Fernando's does cater. You can find out more by visiting fernandosomaha.com and get in touch with them. They really do great catering services as well. But when you're just looking for that great margarita, that famous house margarita, $6 every day, or just something delicious to have for dinner, it's Fernando's with their 2 locations, 114th and Dodge and 75th and Pacific, with the famous table on the roof. Fernando's. Try it tonight. It's fantastic. It's one of my favorites. Fernando's. Get your fix today at Fernando's.
It's the Summer Sizzler on 1620 The Zone. Your chance to win $1,500